Good morning, everyone. Let me just make sure the volume is turned up here. Here we go. It's Fern Weis, parent, coach, and educator. And this morning, I'm coming to you with a recap of a program that I did last night, Step In or Step Aside. And this is all about when to get involved with our kids' challenges or not. We spend a lot of time in the beginning of our children's lives doing everything for them because they come into this world helpless. They start to grow up and their needs change, their need for more responsibility grows, and yet we as parents have a hard time letting go. So it's that natural imperative to protect and care for them. So last night we had an hour-long Zoom room session. It was really wonderful. And we started off the evening with a quote from The Biggest Job We'll Ever Have, which is the story of the Hyde School character education program. And the quote is, "When the going gets tough, the kids need to learn how to hang on, and the parents need to learn how to let go." So this really is a two-pronged equation. It isn't just simply that we let go and wait for things to happen. There are ways to help our children assume more responsibility for themselves, which in turn frees us up a little bit to communicate differently, to relate differently, and ultimately to find our own purpose again in life. So many of us are really struggling to figure out what is our place, what is our purpose, what gives our lives meaning outside of our children and our family. So that quote really got the conversation going. And I'd like to ask you to take a moment to think about what it is that keeps you from letting go. What are the things that keep you from stepping aside and handing off more responsibility for your children, letting them experience the world and become responsible for the consequences as well? Lots of things came up there which are pretty much expected. There's a great deal of fear. Why? Well, first of all, we have a lot of life experience, and we say, well, here, I'm handing it to you. I'm telling you all about the things that I went through. Why can't you just do it the way I tell you? And the fact is that by the time they hit adolescence, it's their job to stop listening. It's their job to start exploring, sending out feelers into the world, and figure out where do they belong? How do they fit in? What do they want? What do they need? And they go out and they look for this information and this connection with their peers. It is their job, just like toddlers, to start to separate from you. And that's a really big adjustment for us to make. So we have life experience and they don't want to follow it. There are a lot of temptations out there. Drugs, alcohol, sex, tattoos, piercings, and then there are the other mental health issues that come up. Are they going to make good decisions? How will they ever get into college? Right? We worry about them, and all of a sudden life becomes about the transcript and funneling into the college prep process. There is that vision that we're afraid to let go of, or we don't know how to let go. I know for me, I had certain expectations about the way my kids' life was going to go. And forget about all the other disappointments I've had in my life and adjustments I've had to make, but here I have my first child who ended up with all kinds of really significant learning issues. Didn't know his letters until the end of first grade. And all I could think of was, how's he ever going to learn to read? If he can't read, then everything else is closed to him. So I had to keep my hopes for him high, but adjust my expectations. And then as a teenager, when he started to get into trouble, again, I had to deal with that disappointment and the fears that came with that. Really, it's actually a grieving process when we have to let go of the fears. No, sorry, not the fears. When we have to let go of the dream, of the vision of what their life is going to look like. from enough kids, parents have to make this adjustment to what's really in their child's best interest as opposed to what we want for them. What we want for them, in spite of our good intentions, is not always what's best for them. So there's a lot of fear involved in not being able to let go. Hi, good morning. Jamie, glad to see you here. So if you think you'll take some time to think about it, you'll start to recognize where your fears are directing your energy and your emotions. Okay? And then we moved on. So I'm just going to give you some practical stuff here. Hopefully you can use it as soon as you stop watching this. Letting go requires certain tools and strategies and awareness. I start off with 3 of what I call essential questions. When your kid is struggling, when your child has made mistakes, you have 3 questions to ask. 2 are for you, 1's for your child. The first one is this truly an emergency that requires my intervention? The no-brainer answer is, if it's a matter of health and safety, then yes, we jump in, all hands on deck, and we take care of this, right? It's survival. However, a great many of the decisions that we have to make are not emergencies. And then we have to ask the question, whose problem is this? Whose responsibility is this? Is this my business? Or is this something that my child can, could, or should learn how to take care of him or herself? If we jump in too quickly, we deprive them of opportunities to learn how to be resilient, problem solvers, self-sufficient, and responsible. That word responsible just keeps coming up in there. But also that resilient piece. How do they learn how to bounce back if somebody is always handling these things for them? Right? So is this my problem or is this my child's problem? Whose business is this really? It could be about homework, social situations. It doesn't have to be a task that they're responsible for. It could be other situations in which they're facing choices, right? Or where they need to problem solve their way out. And that leads us to the 3rd question, which is for your child. And be careful, because tone is everything. Your 3rd question, and you can tweak it any way you want, is, so what can you do about this? How can you fix this? A lot of kids are going to say, well, I don't know, because they don't, or because it's too difficult to think about it, or somebody's always been coming up with the answers. For the older children, you want to give them time to think about this. If they really are stumped, you can offer suggestions. You might want to think about this. What do you think about that? Do you want to hear what I did when I was in a similar situation? But our real goal is to get them to think for themselves. And that only happens if you stop talking long enough to let them think, or ask some probing questions in a non-judgmental way that help them start that thought process and that problem-solving process for themselves. So what can you do about this? Also begins to tell them that you have some confidence that they can figure this out. All right? And also remember that our children see us as these fully formed adults. They do not know what it took for us to become the people that we are today. We had our own struggles and our challenges, and somehow we managed to grow up, especially for the teenagers. Some of them have no clue that what they're going through, they're going to live through, and that it's normal. They see us and they think, how can I ever become that? People who know how to balance a checkbook, who pay bills, who go to work every day, who solve problems, who take care of their families, who are active in the communities. They can't imagine this for themselves. So it helps them to overcome those fears of theirs that may cause some of them to become apathetic or withdrawn and totally avoiding taking responsibility for themselves when they know that other people have gone through this, other people have lived through it, and have made it to adulthood. Okay? So expressing confidence that they can do this for themselves. You guys are getting a whole workshop here in about 10 minutes. Well, I've probably gone over by now. A couple of other points to make before we wrap this up. We always talk about, or we tell our children, you can say something without being mean. Do that. Say what you mean without being mean about it. You can feel angry without having to sound angry. Now, I know that's simplistic because we have all these other emotions at work. But in theory, that's where you want to go. And one of the things actually 2 or 3 moms said were their takeaways last night was this idea of, just lost my chain of thought. Of sticking to the facts. When you take a moment, you don't have to reply right away, and that's another point, is pause and take 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, however long it takes to be really clear about what you want to say. And when you do, you stick to the facts. This is what I know, so it doesn't come off as judgmental or critical. This is what I know. This is what my senses told me. I saw this, I heard that. This is what I wanted you to know. Okay? So the more you stick to the facts, the more you avoid an emotional response, the better off you'll be in communicating with your child and maybe getting some cooperation. All right. So we did pause and take 5. Learning to respond in a way that is more fact-based as opposed to emotion-based. Expressing confidence that your kids can do this. And finally, offering to be there to help, not to do it for them. It's really way too easy when your kid says, it's Sunday night and I have a report due tomorrow and I didn't start yet, or I'm only halfway through. Super easy for us to jump in and say, well, you're going to need this book and this book and this book, because we don't want them to fail. We don't want them to be unhappy or disappointed. So we jump right in and start to micromanage. Our job is not to say, do this, this, and this. Our job is to offer help, figure out what that help looks like if they want it, and then see how you can assist without doing it for them. All right? So a couple of other things were the takeaways from last night. And one of them I also mentioned was this idea of sticking to the facts. Another one which comes up at every single program I do is, oh my gosh, I felt so alone with my struggles and my challenges in my family. Being here in the safety of this group, I realized that I'm not alone. And just as an aside, this page, this Yin and Yang Mom page, this is for you. I know Renee is doing her utmost to make sure that this is a safe place to share. She shares from her heart. We mom bloggers who are doing these Facebook Lives, we're also sharing our own experiences to help you understand whatever you are going through. Someone else, many someone else's, have been there before. And we are here to support you, help you learn, and to share our wisdom. I learn things from the moms in every program that I do, and every mother I work with. I'm always learning something new. So that's what I offer you. Take what you can from these. I hope you found something useful in the step in or step aside steps and the quotes. And please leave some comments. Let me know what resonates for you and what you think you might be willing to go home and try today. Okay? Also, always look out for new events. There will be 1 or 2 per month, in person and online, for the Mom Talk programs. And I see that I have a couple of comments here, which I need my glasses for. Yeah. Thank you, Renee. None of you are alone. I know. Sometimes when we need the most support is when we feel the most alone. Or we feel the most alone and we just feel disconnected from the community because we think no one else is struggling. And it's not true, but so many of these things we don't talk about in public. It's just too risky to be vulnerable and expose ourselves to the judgment of others. So on that cheerful note, please, again, leave some comments. I love to know your thoughts about this and even suggestions about what you'd like me to talk about next time. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.